Welcome back to the channel, guys. In this video, we continue breathing new life into the old worn-out square body wrecker from DeBalls Towing in Garfield, New Jersey. It's gonna be lights, brakes, all sorts of other random improvements, and we'll try to just dive right in. Like usual, there might be some side adventures that have nothing to do with the wrecker, but I will keep everything fast-paced. So I'm gonna start by just slapping a new master cylinder in. Yes, nothing like starting with the easy stuff to get you going. You know, it's funny, a comment I see every time I wear gloves in videos is, it goes something like, my grandfather told me, never trust a mechanic who wears gloves, or something along those lines. But it's just so funny to me, like that's the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard. You should certainly protect your hands whenever you have the means to do so. I don't always wear gloves, but it not only makes cleanup a lot easier, but these chemicals get soaked into your skin over time. And it's funny because when I don't wear gloves, I get older guys jumping on there saying, yo, you should be wearing gloves. I didn't, and I'm really regretting it in my later years. So you get both sides to that, but wear gloves if you got them. As always, before jamming those new parts in, do a quick side-by-side. Make sure your ports are the same. Everything looks identical. Check the piston and do a quick push rod verification or piston verification. So making sure that the push rod's not going to need any adjustment. We can see this piston did have some seepage on the bottom. Probably not a bad idea to hit with a little paint real quick too, I guess. But it doesn't really matter if these rust on the outside. As far as cosmetics go, though, it'd be nice. Strip the oils off first, though. Oh yeah, see how well that holds up. While that dries, I'm going to replace these marker light lenses because I've been noticing condensation in them. A few of them have cracks, and I was getting a little bit of water inside the cab, so I'll start with these. It's nice they got the Torx head stainless steel. These were a little brittle from the sun. Made in Canada grommets. Rubber holding up really nice. I mean, especially for the age, like these don't have any dry rot, so I mean they must not have been sitting in the sun, but definitely high quality. A few of the filaments were burnt out, and I don't have this style in stock, but I do have a whole bag of these the newer LED style, like dirt cheap online. So you can only plug it in one way because it's diode, right? But well, those look pretty decent. And otherwise, the only other thing I wanted to show you is I used silicone brake grease around this whole thing, so it's not gonna dry. I put it all in here too, and that way it'll keep that watertight over the years. Of course, it's gonna probably attract a little bit of dirt, but rather that than water getting in there. Oh yeah, and then rub that residual grease into the Canadian rubber to recondition it a little bit. Totally watertight. We'll recheck on that later this evening to make sure I like the way it looks before I do the rest though. Got this silicone jobby that needs to be redone too. Water was definitely getting in there on the back. It's a proper fix until we add another antenna in the future. And we can slap this back on. Something tells me we will be revisiting the brake booster in the future, or the hydro booster, should I say. We get rid of these old faded marker lenses too. And this one, I'm not getting any light out of it, so I'll try cleaning these terminals with a file. If not, we got a wiring issue. There we go. Just need a little cleaning. Turns out we got some kind of wiring issue back here. You see this light is intermittently working, and I have my fingers on the wires in the back on the other side. And we got probably some corrosion in there. And that wiring runs back behind here, which we're going to be putting new headlights in it too, since one side's out. So let's see, maybe we just got a loose ground or something. Love how old vehicles just are like so easy to work on. There's no hidden fasteners. So that wiring comes down behind here into this loom. Now here's what I found. The headlight, which was working fine, has a nice solid ground on this power probe. This is pretty good for finding bad grounds. It's just convenient. Not that it's the end all be all, but you see if I shake these wires, you saw those just came on. Now the marker light gets its ground from the headlight, so technically if that ground's good, these should be good too, but I'm actually showing voltage on this. So if I apply ground to this marker now, you see they all come on. So So simply what that means is this black wire coming off from the headlight is not making good contact, or there's corrosion inside of the wire somewhere. There's our problem. We had a broken tab inside of here. So it needs a new socket for the turn signal. It actually had this broke off on the inside. That was their whole problem. And the driver's side's the same darn thing. See, I got the turn signal, and if I bump this, then they'll both go on. Or maybe we can finagle and fix that later. However, gonna take a quick break because Jen has just informed me it's just the last day in the 70s, and it's supposed to be possibly below freezing tonight, so we're gonna winterize the jet ski and maybe go hit the river real quick with the Gus man and Jen. Take a little break, you know. What do you think, Gus? Are you excited to go hit the water one last time, huh? He's like, yeah, we're going, let's go. It's that time of the year where everybody pulls their campers out and it looks like a giant, I don't know, trailer park here on the way to the ramp. Gus's little island where he can run free. I won't plop you in the water because it's frigid, but there you go, buddy. Come on, run around now. Let's go. Woo! We love bringing him out to these islands because you can kind of just let him run around and he doesn't venture into the water or into the woods much. And he just likes to sniff and explore and also find trash and old chicken wing bones. Oh yeah, start a little fire with a dead tree. Have a nice little rager out here. A little windy though for a huge fire. That'll singe your hair real quick.
Come here. Good boy.
Gus likes digging up roots. Playing tug of war with earth. There it is, he found something weird. He says, it's mine, I can have it. What kind of bone is this? I don't know, but he says it's mine, drop it. You can see the tide swing. When I was stacking sticks, they were right at the water line, and then that's where we're at now. About, I don't know, 20 feet out. Winterize the jet ski real quick, so I did want to show you how I also repurposed these stainless steel fire extinguishers not only as a fuel pump but for winterizing jet skis. I don't know if you believe me, but I just fought for this for like 20 minutes trying to get this copper sleeve out of here. I ended up, using a slide hammer and then having to just sawzall the middle of it down to get her on out. But essentially filled up with a gallon of RV antifreeze. And then I fill her up with 60 PSI, which is equivalent to my house water pressure. There it is, and that's way below what these are rated for. These are generally filled up like 110 to 120 PSI. And you fire up the jet ski, hold this upside down since it doesn't have the pickup tube, and let it rip. And you see we got pink RV antifreeze coming out, rev her up a few times, and then we don't have to worry about this ski, the cooling system freezing over the winter. Next time we'll have that out is either some kind of a mission or chasing down icebergs, but I'm thinking the airboat is going to be a much better vessel for the winter excursions. So back to getting some lighting done on this. For anybody else that has a Chevy with the same problem, the simple solution was a mini little stainless screw and just run that right down the side to join. That's a connector that went bad. Once I run this down, they should go back on. There it is, look at that. And that'll last a lifetime. That sits flush on there, and then cover it back up with the weather boot or seal washer thing. Beautiful. LED bulbs all over, except for the headlights. I don't like the LED headlights on these old trucks. Got some freshly sealed beams. I'll hit the back with surface shield. You can use grease or whatever you want on the terminals. And then I'm gonna hit this with some surface shield too, just to give me some peace of mind. Maybe get a few extra years before this rots out completely, especially up where the screws mount. That way all the dirt can stick to it over the years, and it's a nice coating on there. Top markers are in, looking good. Now doing some LEDs on the back. These are super dim, so I can try putting different bulbs, or maybe there's a bad ground going up to that. Same with down here. I'm gonna probably get some LEDs for that as well. I mean, gotta match them, right? The front's super bright, so. I really like this housing, so I'll get some LED bulbs and see if that brightens it up a little bit, but just wiggling the bulb took care of the dimness. You can see with this plate being on here for so many years, it got metal fatigue cracks from flapping around in the wind like that. A little windy out here and chilly. Check out the tail light situation. I like that design, a little snap ring. Yeah, I guess we'll just get some bulbs for that too. You'll see if I got some stainless to replace that with. Hey, you know what? I'll order some flush mount LED lights. Drywall screw through the lens for a fix on this one. I mean, come on. Yeah, I'll replace all these markers now on the bed. I'm gonna get rid of these guards since they're all corroded anyway and drill out the rivets. Some people don't like butt connectors because they say they corrode out, but as long as you pack them with any kind of grease, you'll never have a problem with them corroding. And, you know, it's the small upgrade stuff like the screws that this came with, these will rot out super quick. So if you use some stainless, that makes these lights a whole lot better. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like them. These are really cheesy looking with the white bottom. We'll get something different. Well, I did what I should have done in the beginning and stripped the rest of the lights off and got some new ones on order. So at this point, it's around 10 p.m. I am gonna go ahead and finish doing the new lines in the back. No need to bore you guys with that. I will chime back when it's all done. Got the driver's side done, new cable, wheel cylinder, hardware, shoes, along with a new Cupro nickel brake line. You can see I slathered everything in surface shield. These are great over the steel lines, but you know, the factory steel line has that spring that goes over it and helps protect it. And so if you're going through these factory holding positions, you got to make sure to use like a nylon sleeve. Otherwise, these will chafe through. The biggest thing with doing brake lines is you just got to make sure they're not touching anything because they will chafe through over time. You see, I got that new brake hose in as well. So I'll do a brake adjustment, slap the drum on, and then knock out the other side. You know, I probably could have got away with keeping the rear lines, but when they had the spring on here, you never know, like packed with rust, you never know how much life it would have still had. I mean, yeah, see, this was still deep. Well, no, actually, yeah, see, there it goes. I mean, they were on their last legs. You should be able to flex it more times than that without it breaking. Next day, let's slam this other side out, see what other kind of progress we can make. This tool makes taking the parking brake cables off so much easier. You just crimp down on that and squeezes in on these little spring tabs. Not that you need this tool, but if you're doing brakes every day, it really helps out. You see brake fluid pouring out of this as soon as I took the little pieces off. Instead of trying to fight with taking this rusted line off the back. Yeah, this one's even more rusted than the other side. I figured I'd just take the whole thing off as an assembly so I can go prefab that line. Bendix. I know sometimes you guys see me paint parts, and sometimes I just coat them. Even when I paint them, I still go over stuff with a little coat of oil or whatever you got, but this Surface Shield lanolin oil is great stuff, or lanolin oil based. And then all the dust and dirt sticks to it over time, and you get a nice look, and it does help prevent the corrosion big time. What's really nice about these Cooper nickel brake lines is that you can bend them by hand. I don't strive to make them perfect, but you know, good enough. That'll do. You know, at some point I want to undercoat this entire truck, but I like to just go ham with the undercoating. Well, I go ham with spraying lube on everything. I also go pretty ham putting Loctite. I like red Loctite on all important bolts. I don't know if they call for it or not on these, but the last thing I want is one of these backing out going down the road. Sometimes I see people comment like, you can't use red Loctite on that, you'll never get it off. I've never had that problem at all. Red Loctite is certainly removable. And if it is being stubborn, like say on a small bolt where you're worried about pulling threads out of aluminum or something, you apply just a little bit of heat and this stuff doesn't hold. Basically, its holding properties go out the window when you apply a little bit of heat. Hey, babe. Hey. What happened? What, one's lying? She spooked you?
I feel like I caught her in the bathroom.
Quick tip that I've showed in other videos for lubing cables, and it can be very dangerous, but essentially you get a ball valve with a barbed end on it and get a high pressure hose. This one's rated for 200 psi, and I fill it with motor oil up to about here, and then all you do is slip it over the hose, wear safety glasses and protective. I'm not telling you what to do, so don't follow me, you know. Slip that all the way over and then tighten this down. Now flip the whole thing upside down so the oil runs to the bottom. And you can use shop air, but make sure you put a regulator on it and turn the pressure down. You don't want to use full pressure. And then I'm going to go ahead and open the valve, and it's going to push that oil through the cable. You might get some drippage coming out like you see right here, but it is working its way and come to the other side and pull the cable back and forth. You see, you guys hear the air coming out. So I guess I could have put a little bit of more oil in, but you don't want to overdo it with the oil, because then you're gonna have oil running down into the drum. So it's actually kind of a good sign that air is coming out. I'll let that go for a minute and work the motor oil that I used up into it. Yep, now I can see it. It's on the cable now. There it is coming out of there. Now I'll let that go for a minute just to blow it all up and clear it out. The brake's all done. I did notice this as I was working on it. Might be the new filter housing at some point. That's about to just blow out. Luckily, that is the return side though, so it shouldn't be under pressure, right? I don't know. I'll loosen this up a little bit. There we go. I'll do a final adjustment later. Like I was saying earlier, bench bleeding is always a great idea, but I found with most of these master cylinders, if you just let them sit there for 5-10 minutes, it will fill up and trickle down and then start coming out of these holes. And 5 minutes later, you can see both these are dripping, but Jen just came outside, so I'll have her hop in real quick and you cover your fingers over here and press the pedal. Oh, it is kind of up high. Yeah, I can get you a stool.
I'm in.
It's on the jack's good, so it ain't going nowhere. It stands. Gus is like, well, let me in. All the way down. Okay, let go. Slowly start pressing all the way down again. And let go. That's it. Anyway, I'm gonna hook these lines up and then have Jen help me bleed the rest of the brakes, pump them out, flush those brand new lines, and we now have a rock hard pedal and no brake leaks. Oh, I got you. I got you. I did want to show you guys, as I was bleeding the brakes, I wasn't getting a lot of flow to the rear, so I was messing around with the load sensing valve, which is disconnected already. I think I called this a proportioning valve in the first video, but that's actually up front. And well, I ended up bypassing it because I looked it up online where this is supposed to be positioned, and then it seems the most popular upgrade is to just delete them. So I was able to just bend this line up and then reconfigure this one to make it work. I'll go ahead and pop that off now. And I guess, yeah, apparently you don't need that. And there's some other stuff I want to do back here and show you before putting the wheels on, but those new tires, for the rear, just came in, so I'm going to go try to slap those on. Oh yeah, 6 new hoops. Nothing like some fresh rubber. Now, there's some people wondering about that terminology, hoops, and that's just something picked up working in the shop over the years. You know, it's like, oh, 4 hoops on your hook, or that one's gonna need a 4-banger. It's just, they don't call them tires in the shop. I don't know. And it's this time of year, everybody starts making fun of me for my hat. This thing's like from New York, one of those cheapies. I'd love to get a high quality one though. I mean, these really do keep you warm. So it's, I don't care if you guys make fun of me. Oh, are you kidding me? Yeah, we're gonna have some adjustment. All right. Because the guy said there was like 6 different cable lengths. So I took a rough measurement and I was like, yeah, this one should do. Yeah, we're gonna be good. Where's my surface shield and my grease? If you ever buy something and it's just covered in surface shield and grease and oil all over the place, it's probably because I worked on it. Yes! It fits. Yes. Oh man, would you look at that. What a beautiful sight. It came out nice and tight, got cable protector here, so this can slide back and forth. It's not hitting. And up there as well. No adjustment needed. Real quick break. I want to thank the sponsor of this video, EBL. They happen to make my favorite portable power station, the MP1000. So I want to quickly tell you a few reasons why it's my favorite and then show you an example of where it really comes in handy. By far the best thing about this is its size to output ratio. Like right here we have a 300 watt unit. It's just about the same darn size. And this is a 600 watt. It's almost even bigger than it. What else I like is when you turn the USBs on, these won't prematurely time out. It also has wireless charging up top, so you can let that run for 10, 12 hours and it will not time out automatically. The handle is super beefy and overall the construction just feels really tough. When you fire up the AC outlets, the fan doesn't automatically come on. Some of the other ones I've tested, the fan will stay on whether there's a load being pulled or not. This only comes on when it needs the fan. And this becomes an even more useful tool if you pick up a pair of their 100-watt solar panels. They fold in, real high quality. They charge it right up when the sun is out. Here's a fine example of the EBL in action, doing an oil pump out. And sometimes if there's no power around, you might resort to using this. Now, I used to use a 12-volt pump, but the 120-volt pumps are so much faster. So you can see this is chugging along, 527 watts it's pulling. It's only dropped 8% and already pumped this tank out halfway, which is pretty darn impressive. So I'll drop a link to these down below in the description. You can get them on Amazon or their website. Huge thank you to EBL for sponsoring the video, and now let's dive back into it. Now I'm back here at the wheel lift, greasing all the zerks. And forget if I showed you guys the cracked frame or not. Oh, that's so nice to be able to grease something that needs to be greased. But you know, I did notice that, and the more I look around, I just keep noticing more and more. So when I originally got this, I did notice this crack, but I was like, ah, well, they sistered it up, it looks fine. I mean, that's right where the wheel lift bolts on. And I guess I didn't bother to look at the passenger side because that is looking a whole lot worse. Whatever bracing was on the top seems to have broke, and on the bottom they did put this big plate across. So I don't know, it's like a cutting blade or something, or maybe a piece of a plow blade, I'm not sure. But that's probably gonna need some attention, and we'll find that out later. I mean, this is not we're not doing a restoration here, guys. We're just kind of, you know, going, oh, look, this vent, this is broken too. I should go over here, see the differential's getting dirt put inside, so I'll make sure that's clear. And put this is actually pinched in between there too. But the more I look around, the more I see, and you know, like right here in between this shock mount, the wiring that somebody snaked behind it years and years ago is now getting rust jacked and pinched in. Like, that's gonna be a short circuit for sure. So at this point, I'm gonna finish greasing up all the chassis pivots back here, and then we're gonna get the gas tank in and just hopefully get this running and drive. We don't even know if the transmission shifts properly or what sort of other issues. I might go to lift a car with the back of this and the whole thing rips off. That'll be hilarious. It's like these have never been greased before. Ah, that one's not taken. Hopefully it's just some crusty grease in there and a little heat does the trick. Yep, there it goes, she's taken. Sweet. He's able to get all 11 grease zerks on the wheel lift to take grease. I wonder if all that plays normal on this. We still got to get these on C's too, if you guys remember from the first video. And then the last three, it's like full of water and they're broken off, so. Oh! So I'll blow that out and then, that ain't gonna come off, is it? Kind of a bad design, eh? I don't know if it's maybe a drain clog, but... And I think the middle one is all we actually need, because it's filling the whole pin up. Perfect thing for those holes. Couple corks. Perfect fit. Gotta love that. It's a nice solution to keep the water from going in there. Leave the middle one accessible for greasing. So back over to the vent. Yeah, I'll take care of it. And the suspension's fully dropped down right now, so plenty of slack. Guess we ought to check the differential gear oil since we have those axles out. We did check this in the first video, I think. But yeah, some oil came out when we took the axles. Yeah, and top that off. Alright, she didn't take too much. I guess the last thing I'll do tonight is just put the new pump in the tank and then clean out this garage. See, you know, I'm sorry about the light. It gets crazy. I can't even get the tools because when I come in here, I don't know, I just grab stuff and then I leave it out, like when we were doing the wiring. I grabbed this, left it out, of course. Left all the lights out, left the flaring tool out, the spray paint. You go in here and it's just like digging for hose clamps and I leave it out. I had the valve stems. I mean, it's just, it gets a little ridiculous. So you gotta clean up at least every other day, otherwise you'll go insane. And in case you guys are wondering where I was pulling all those LED light bulbs out the other day, these are my bulbs collection. So I didn't have the ones I needed. And you know, you store all this stuff and a lot of time you have what you need, but you really end up ordering stuff all the time. That's what happens. I know I'm always mentioning it, guys, but I cannot wait to get another garage. I mean, I wish there was more space here. I love this town, but I can't wait to get like a couple acres at a pole barn or something one day. Just keep saving up, keep saving, and hopefully, you know, that market will crash. I know a lot of people have been saying that at the end of 2022, the market's going to take a dive. So kind of banking on that and hope to get something in the future. And for now, it's keep organizing in here. Grease it all up. Shoot a little of this around the rim too. And hopefully it will work. I like to just fill this whole valley up with something, and that will just get cruded up with road grime and dirt over the years. But I've had so many tanks or pumps at work that rot out right here, and they start leaking. Of course, they rot out on the bottom or there. This is half a bucket of weight reduction off the wrecker. Everything I picked up with the magnetic sweep in the driveway. So the first thing I did was hook the wires up, give the keys just a little blip to hear that pump come on. You don't want to run it dry, but I did want to make sure that it works because, you know, with these aftermarket pumps, you never know what you're getting. So when we pulled the original pump out, it had these shorty little hoses. You couldn't even get your hand up there. So I just cut them, you know, and they were dry rotted anyway. But putting the new one in, I went ahead with long hoses that I'm gonna tuck neatly with a neat loop on each one, and that way whoever drops this tank next has a little tail to play with. The high pressure outlet on the pump is larger, it's 3/8 diameter, and this one from the factory had double clamps on it, which makes sense. So I adhered to that, and the return is smaller. Now, as I was leaning over and here kind of looking down, just reaching up, I had my arm jacket got caught on here, and then see that happened, and a ton more rust came off the first time, and it filled my ear. Now, you ain't wrenching until you've had an ear full of rust, because that is quite the sensation. It's just a steady steady flow. You would think I would like tuck this and throw a screw in it or something, right? There we go, problem fixed. Now I gotta just tuck this up and put the brackets on it. We gotta go grab a new filter too. Remember the end broke off on this one. So it's back to, it's raining rust, hallelujah. The aftermarket bracket does not have the nuts welded on, which I don't know if that's factory or not. I don't know, maybe somebody welded those, but it makes it a lot easier because trying to snake between a tank is tough. And then starting this strap is probably a great idea because trying to do it once the tank is in there is, you know, a little bit tight. Get them just barely started, and then we can push this up, put the bolts in. Make sure you... Now we need to get a filter and some gas. Scooter's great for this, but I gotta say it does ride pretty wonky when it's top heavy, especially a liquid up there. Nothing left to lose. Seems like the pump's turning off. Hey, it shuts off every 15 seconds, so 11, 13, 14, there it is. Pump shut off. No, that's fine. Oh, we'll have to find out why the pump's timing out like that. My first thought is let's check the fuses. I don't know what kind of PCM. I mean, this must have some kind of computer that sends signal, but it seems like it's priming the fuel pump, but maybe not telling. It's just the computer's not telling it to run. So I'm gonna just check all these fuses to begin with. No, I ran the power probe across and they're all good. And I was looking at a wiring diagram for one of these. I'll try to put it right here so if you guys want to take a glance. But we know the fuse is good because the pump is running, period, and getting power, but it seems the oil pressure switch is tied into it. And so if that's probably what tells it to keep running after the engine starts, after the computer primes it. So then I was thinking, all right, I checked this for ground, it's got nothing. And I'm like, wait a second, this is not a switch, this is a sending unit. There must be another oil pressure switch is what I'm getting at. So I don't see one up here. And crawling around underneath, yes, on top of this oil filter housing, there is a switch. It actually looks like a newer switch too, but it's completely unplugged. And I don't see a wire for it anywhere. So let's go back up top. All right, I think I found it up top here, guys. This has been unplugged for quite some time. You see there's corrosion and those pins. And I'm thinking that switch used to be up here because this definitely doesn't have enough tail to go down yonder. And then somebody added this just for the gauge at some point. I'm not sure, but we have 12 volts on one side, so I'm gonna send 12 volts on the other side now. I'll turn this buzzer off because it's probably annoying, but here we go. All right, 12 volts. Yep, I hear the pump coming on. So that's leading me to believe maybe he just has a pump switch in the truck somewhere. Not seeing any kind of hidden fuel pump switch anywhere, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and just take the sending unit out because the gauge doesn't work anyway. It's stuck all the way up, and we'll take this switch out of the bottom, see if that fits, and put that up top. There it is. That's 1/4" MPT though. Imagine the one on the back's gonna be 1/8. And yeah, well, actually that looks like a different connector. Okay, it's not the right switch. I mean, this looks like it almost fit if I got rid of these 2 pins that we don't need. Let's try that, because you know, this wasn't This is not needed anyway down there. You know what, let's do the smart thing and test this switch first. Yeah, I'm just assuming it's gonna work, and after breaking a couple pins out of it, it's like, we should probably test it first. So we're open with no pressure, and then I got 60 PSI air pressure. We'll blow in it, see if it closes. It should. It does not close, so that's the problem. I'll have to get that switch tomorrow. For now, with bypass though, it should stay running. About 10 minutes later, as she's warming up, starting to hear what sounds like a slight misfire at idle, but a little surgy too. We can address that later though. Has installed. Battery is charging. Yep, definitely got a dead miss on the cylinder, if you guys can hear that. So I'll go pinpoint which one it is. And that's not burning oil or anything, it's just cold out right now. I was just getting ready to do a cylinder balance test with the high voltage glob. You pull one wire off at a time and listen to see whichever one nothing changes, that's the one you have a misfire. However, probably can't see it, but it's such a cracked porcelain. I see the spark jumping around that plug there. So I'll grab a set of plugs tomorrow too. I mean, at nighttime, I don't know if you guys can see that. You probably can't. Here's a closer look at the hairline crack in that porcelain, allowing the spark to jump to ground. And when I pulled it out, it was separated anyway. You can see it started rusting in there. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of the lights in. I got the new turn signal lenses for the front, and we're pretty much gonna be lighting up a turret here. These markers, I decided not to go with because they were cheesy. So I got these, which are smaller than the 2x6 ones I had. These were just too overkill. These are like a happy little medium size. Oh yeah. You guys probably can't tell the difference, but I threw LED bulbs in those top ones and it really brought back life. Those were super dim before. Only problem is they're blinking it intermittently. See it just stop blinking. And well, the top is a filament. You can see there's a slight delay between the two because the LED's instant on and the filament's not. But problem is when you put the LED, you guys probably all noticed, but when you put those LEDs, they don't draw as much current. So the flasher units, these have bimetal inside of them. When the bimetal inside of here heats up, it flicks off, then it cools down and recontacts, and then heats up when it makes contact, breaks off again, and so that's what actually causes the flashing. So you need a transistor one, which I might have in stock in one of these boxes. You see I got a few of the regular style, and I guess I'll just grab one. So this one's rated for 21 watts times 2 plus 3.4 watts, and then it will flash properly. You go throwing LEDs in there and you trip that all up. Oh no, the one side stopped spinning. I guess at some point we'll have to get an LED bar. I do like the old school. Yeah, that side stopped spinning. It was spinning before. Yes, those are perfect fit on there. No, they don't have a cage around them or anything, but you know, cheap enough if you happen to break one. And didn't even have to re-drill new holes. Next day, taking a ride with the Gus man. Go get an oil pressure switch, some spark plugs. What you sniffing? Nice fall weather? We are in business. They had everything in stock. 2-wire oil pressure switch and that flasher that doesn't rely on the wattage for blinking. That takes care of that issue. Nice and steady. Here's a glance at the plugs that came out. You see somebody went a little ham with the anti-seize, and it's okay to use it on the threads, but you don't want to get it up on this area because it does have metals in it. It's conductive and it could lead to a misfire. Actually, at my work many years ago, there was a guy that put anti-seize in the boots, and he did plugs and wires, and then this thing had crazy misfires, and I'm like, well, we're looking over trying to figure out why, and I saw the anti-seize and I was like, oh man. The problem with these AC Delcos is they have no coating though. They rust, and if I was to guess, I think rust gets in between here and you get rust jacking, causing the cracks in these porcelains, because I see a lot of these crack, and I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure. So you know what I'm gonna do this time? I'm gonna use some dielectric grease, just kind of experimenting, and I'm gonna throw it on the untreated metal surface of this, kind of crimp it down in between. and just a very light coating. That was probably a little bit too much, and that way over time dirt is going to stick to this and they shouldn't rust very much. You could use any grease really, and I believe that's going to be good for the long term. And let's make sure this oil pressure switch does what we need it to do. Open right now, apply some pressure, it should close. Yep, it does. Excellent. I decided we put that switch up top here, and I went to crank on underneath this with a 9/16. Oh yeah, it snapped right off, almost like there was already a hairline crack in this and it was getting ready to break. It's a brass fitting. So I'm kind of glad we got rid of this, because if that blew off driving, whoo, it'd be bad news. The gauge don't work anyway, so we don't need this right now. As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, just what an ingenious design. Like, you lose oil pressure, you lose fuel pump, so you can't blow your motor up. And you older guys are probably thinking, how did you not know the oil pressure switch ran the fuel pump? Well, you know, all the cars I worked on in my career didn't have this system at all. Yeah, so that's 8th MPT. This is a piece that broke. I'm gonna have to get an adapter for that. I should hopefully have something. Indeed, there's 1/4 to 8th MPT. Just need a little nipple too. And for you guys wondering how I got a lot of this, well, the Sears Hardware closed years ago, and I got this stuff for like pennies on the dollar. I was filling entire shopping carts up. The guy's like, yeah, I don't know, give me 20 bucks. And I was like, really? Can we do that again? He's like, yeah, it's fine. We gotta sell it all. I'm like, okay, I'll be back. It's where I got all the bins, everything else. They were just getting rid of everything. Hopefully that'll do it. Low profile elbow, we'll call it. There we go. Provided we have oil pressure, it should run the fuel pump now. Air filter's plenty usable. This crankcase breather port can be plugged up because it goes right to the TBI on the other side. Definitely an aftermarket engine in here for sure. Like it says good wrench right on the side, almost like this is a crate motor. But can I just say that factory air cleaners and air boxes make me so happy. I love them. They make sense. There's no reason for an air filter to be right here. You're not getting any more performance. This is plenty of flow coming right to the factory snorkel. You know, so if you're going in some water, it's not gonna be splashing up onto the filter as easily. And yeah, they just make me really happy. Unless you have a well-designed aftermarket air box, then that's different. I'm going back to where we just were because what it's doing right now is odd, and I'm going to disconnect that because it ran fine yesterday. You know, we hooked that switch up and it doesn't want to run. If I jump the oil pressure switch first with this, it turns the pump on, continues to run the pump. I start it, runs fine. If I start it first and then the pump's running, I jump the switch. As soon as I jump it, it shuts the truck off. So there must be some other wiring issue going on. This is the fuel pump relay, which you don't need the way it's currently set up. And when you turned the key on before, I could hear the pump, and it doesn't spin that fast. But when I jump the oil pressure connector, the pump sounds much stronger. So whatever system they had the fuel pump hooked up in, it was running through this gauge fuse and definitely didn't have enough current flow to the pump, because again, with hearing how weak it was running, that means there's probably some small gauge wire or a weak connection somewhere. So I just took that out because when this is in, for some reason I can't run the pump with that oil pressure switch, and I'm gonna keep it like that for now. I mean, hopefully what I was just saying makes a little bit of sense to you guys, but essentially we will address the fuel pump wiring issue at a later time because there's people went in there, bypassed things that I don't know what's going on. Granny. And she feels so healthy. Definitely not gonna have good highway speed though, I can already tell that. log it down on the full throttle. That's full throttle. It's got nothing. But hey, driving straight, horn works. Even the fuel gauge might work. I'm showing a quarter tank on there, which is about what we got. Let's try her out my old stomping grounds over these bumps. I'm running 75 PSI in the back, 50 in the front, and wow, I mean, over these bumps, this is, I mean, minus the door jamming up back and forth, this is like unbelievably smooth over these. I'm shocked. And it doesn't even have shocks in the rear. I'm shocked. Oh yeah. I mean, this is a really rough parking lot. I don't know what it looked like on camera, but really smooth over those bumps. And you might be asking why. The answer is I'd rather find out if something's gonna break in a parking lot here, not too far from home, and be able to address it then on the highway. It's the same reason I like to take the brake pedal, and after doing brake lines or even a car that you don't know anything about, you know, push it all the way down. Give it that emergency braking pressure to see if anything's gonna blow out, like a hose or a line, or because the last thing you want is to jam on your brakes and that's when they blow out. Which, by the way, the brakes aren't feeling great. I mean, I can just feel a lot of that hydro boost struggling. I don't know why. Oh, here's an old F600. Check this thing out. Yeah, that thing's still working. Big old load. Pretty good shape actually too. Now let's see if it can do any work. So we got the 1,700 pound 6V53 two-stroke Detroit diesel. I believe it's 1,700 pounds, but I have nothing that can lift this, and that's why it just kind of got shoved and shimmied into where it is now. And I'd like to put it not right in front of the garage. Winch, what's up? Let's see if the boom going up and lift it. Yeah! No problem. And we don't even have the RPM turned up. Oh! Almost got ball tapped there by the wheel lift. You know, just trying to go over all the functions and get everything lubricated. The further I dig, I just keep running into stuff that, you know, it takes time. Like, say, for instance, on these winch controls, hopefully you guys can see all right. You know, you can't read them. So I was going to write it on the deck first, and then I was like, yeah, let me just... It's a little better, and this is very important, especially if I have somebody helping me and I say, hey, can you put the winch in or out a little bit, and I'm doing something else. Very important. Hey, good stuff. With the wheel lift fully extended out, I think it's safe to say the back of that frame definitely needs to be repaired before we lift any cars, because look, when I jump on it, actually, I just thought of something, guys. In the meantime, if I want to use this wheel lift, I can just hook the boom up to it with this basket. And now, look at that, sturdy as can be. No flex on the back because that's distributing all that weight over to the middle of the frame. We've got all the lights fully rigged up except for the reverse lights that don't work, but you know, that's just probably a simple switch. So yeah, she's I'm gonna call that complete. Really happy with these LEDs. I mean, they give it just an incredible look, and the only ones that aren't LEDs are the headlights, which of course aren't on right now, but so that way there's a lot less draw on this now. And I guess it's normal for the side markers to blink when the turn signal's off. I'm not sure about that though, but for now I'm like, whatever, I'm leaving it. And at this point I gotta get the phone number off. So apparently he said some people were calling it from YouTube and mentioning YouTube, so please do not call that. It's his cell phone. I think it's his work cell phone, but I'm gonna go ahead and take this off now, and I shouldn't have to blur it out of the videos. I mean, listen guys, he's not in business anymore, so please, you know, be respectful and don't call the phone number. But I hate to take everything off because like this original, I just love this brushed on paint job. Like, it is so cool looking. So that I might leave for now because that doesn't necessarily say his shop. There's other businesses owned under that name up there, I think. Oh yeah, that works very well. There we go. Get the important information off of both sides, and we'll take care of that another time. She gonna get a full tank.
Gotta have a Wawa.
So that's probably like a 21 to 23 gallon tank. I guess we got our first call. We got a pre-staged vehicle to go tow home. Yes, there she is. It's the old El Camino. Let's give it a go. So I'll drop that down, put some load on it, and see what it does to the frame. Went ahead through new straps and ratchets on these arms. Testing. Make sure I put this in neutral. So far I'm thinking that's tilting really far back, but let's go up a little bit more, see what it does. I mean, see, that lifts it up no problem, and I definitely heard some noise taking place back here. It's essentially because of those cracks back there, it's putting like a ton more weight on this, the body itself, which is not meant to do that. But like I was showing you guys, I can hook the boom winch up to it and take that load off. And I'm not saying that's the proper way, but if you have a weak wheel lift like what I'm showing you, that distributes the load onto the bed, because these wheel lifts exert a ton of force onto the back of the frame. It's really not good for these little truck frames. You gotta build them right when you build them, otherwise they will crack. The wheel lift all the way up, I'm gonna say it's not normal to have that much tilt back. That's probably because of the slop from this square tubing and that square tubing, and then those bushings or plastic pieces worn out on there. That whole piece is kind of hanging back. But I suppose I could have left this bar out further too and be less likely to come off of there. However, for the short distance we're going, it's not gonna go anywhere. And you're also supposed to hook safety chains up to these too, so in case this fails, it's hooked to the truck and the car is not going anywhere. However, I see wreckers all the time and I never see those on there. the whole thing was rolled under, so that's not safe. We will be addressing that. I'd like to try out the sling now, even though it definitely needs a new one of those. I'm starting to think I have this upside down. Maybe that should be flipped back around, because the way it is now, that would be hitting the bumper as it comes up. So I'm gonna rearrange this and give it one more go. And I did want to note, you'd probably be hooking this car up from the rear anyway, since it's rear wheel drive. You don't want those wheels spinning on the road with the automatic transmission. Put it in neutral. I mean, for one, it could jump out into gear or into park, but also really bad for the transmission going any kind of distance, you know, rolling that in neutral, the pump's not going. But if you're going just like a mile, it ain't gonna hurt nothing. Yeah, I think that would make more sense. See how much more torn up it is here? That's looking a little bit better. I did watch a video a long while back, and I remember them saying how you had to wrap this around to lock the chain in, and then you can either like short chain it or put the weight on the sling. You guys know me, I always like to do it the hard way first and try to figure it out, and then I'll research it later and make sure we know what we're doing in the future. And that's it. I suppose maybe these are out further than they need to be. I could have left them in, I'm not sure. But our chain is not hitting the bumper and scraping it up, so the weight is bearing on here. I don't have this perfectly centered, but I can see now why the inside of these straps are super chafed up, and it's probably because towing older vehicles like that with the push bumpers on them. And so I believe these are just for safety, and most of the weight is supposed to be on the sling. I'm not sure. Again, we'll do some more research. And a good question is, why do you even need a sling if you have a wheel lift on these tow trucks? Well, I believe these are better for lifting heavy vehicles. Like, I can already see on the tow truck that it's not squatting in the back as much. Before, it was jacked a lot more in the front when I was using the wheel lift. So it distributes that load onto the middle of the frame, and it's safer for towing heavier vehicles. And here's what it looks like in a collapsed position. Again, good amount of tension on these. These are both taut. I don't have the safety wraps because we're just doing some testing. And you gotta make sure you're not hitting your tie rod ends or anything. I mean, you have no possibility of that with the J-hooks. But yeah, it really does put all the lifting on the bumper, though. It's kind of like pushing and pulling on it. And I guess on these older cars, it's completely fine. I'm just looking at it up here on the sling, and we're definitely going to have to reinforce that some. Can you imagine if the cable or that ripped off? I mean, the car would just drop to the ground going down the road, but it wouldn't. It would stay behind you, though, because you're still chained up right here, and so it's just going to probably be ugly. But somebody's got the zoomies, the daily zoomies. Got the covers off back here on the light, and going to replace these bulbs with some LEDs, get those a little bit brighter. And yeah, so this motor not spinning. I can feel it trying to spin though. So I'm gonna go ahead and just shoot some silicone lube in here. I already tried like rotating a little bit, and it wants to start going, but it doesn't go. So we'll lube it, and watch, it'll start smoking. I know you're not supposed to like lube motors generally, but sometimes that's all you need to get it going again. There it goes. Back to life. Listen to that. There it is. It's just that end bearing. Just need a little bit of lube, guys. Of course, they're not spinning the same speed, but you know, that's fine. Well, fingers crossed tonight goes smooth, because this is my first distance tow. We're going about 35 minutes down the highway. Got the safety chains on there, and we did the short chain method on this, so not to put the weight on these straps since we don't trust them. Of course, we don't care that much about the bumper. So yeah, everything's tight and good. And I just have the 4-ways on, which is not legal, so hopefully we won't get pulled over. Got the good whirly lights, so should be all right. Going down the highway, doing about 52, 53. I'm gonna say that's my cutoff for speed, safety-wise. It just, anything more than that, it just doesn't feel safe. It feels like the car could get squirrely, or you're not gonna be able to stop fast enough, you know? We are stretch. Just got to back end, drop it, and yeah, definitely getting more used to this thing the more I drive it with the car. At first it feels pretty sketchy, and over bumps this thing is like ridiculously loud with these doors. And cruising down the highway empty, I'd say our max speed is around 65, but that is stressing the engine a touch, so 60 is better. I mean, that's not our max speed. I could definitely lay it down and get this up, probably doing 75, 80, no problem, but not trying to blow the motor tonight. I don't know if you guys can hear the loud whistle in the background, but maybe get some new weather stripping on those windows. And I think we're ready to make a swift conclusion on this video. You know, the Wrecker is back to life and operational. Yes, it still needs a ton more work. Biggest problem is we're gonna re-brace or fabricate some bracing for the back of that wheel lift. Definitely a big problem, but we've brought her back from the dead, and I think she's a happy camper. I lubricated these wing windows the other day, so those work now. Well, actually, the other side broke off on the bottom, but anyway, so there probably will be more on this Wrecker. Not sure where we're gonna take it from here when jumping back into it. However, a big announcement, Jen's first video ever. We are gonna be trying to teach her stick shift on this truck, which is a terrible truck to learn on. I mean, it does have the granny gear, so I'm hoping we can work a little clutch control with that, but this thing is kind of horrible to drive compared to a modern. So that should be a fun video, and there will be a link to it down below to her channel, to that video. So chime into that if you want to see more and see Jen getting frustrated.
Yeah,
and
should be fun.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. So thank you so much for tuning into this video, guys. Couldn't do it without you. Greatly appreciate every one of you and all the comments and all the feedback. And yeah, that's gonna wrap this one up. So I will see you again in a future video. No nonsense, though, How. See you then. I just want to know what kind of person thinks it's okay to throw a sticker like that over top a stop sign. I hope somebody spams this number or puts it on a list, because that's just ridiculous, guys. What a jerk.